That year, after my parents retired, they moved all the way to Greece to enjoy their old age, leaving me with an entire huge house here. Then, just my luck, the pandemic hit, I lost my job, prices shot up like crazy, and I got so strapped for cash that I decided to rent out the parts of the house I wasn't using. So I posted rental ads on social media. One ad for the upstairs, one for the basement. Honestly, I didn't expect anything from the basement, but I snapped a few photos and put it up anyway. Who knows, maybe I'd get lucky, since I planned to charge dirt cheap. One day I heard a knock. I opened the door to find a family of 4, a couple in their 40s and 2 boys around 10 to 14. At first I thought they were proselytizers or something, but then they said they were here about the basement rental and I was caught off guard. They looked pretty well off. Why would they want to rent a damp, low place like that? Whatever though, if money's coming my way, why say no? I led them down to the basement. The husband took out a tape measure and measured the walls. Then they asked me about the lack of windows, the air quality, whether they could bring down their own furniture and install extra lighting. I said yes to everything, as long as the rent was paid. When they were done looking, the wife came up to me and asked something very odd. "Would you mind going upstairs and walking around a bit? We want to see how much noise carries down here." It was strange but reasonable, so I went up, put on my heaviest shoes, and paced around for a bit. A few minutes later, just as I rounded the corner to head back down, I jumped. There they were, all 4 of them, already standing in the hallway. They beamed and said they were very satisfied and would take the basement. They signed a 6-month lease on the spot, saying they were in between homes and just needed a temporary place. I still felt a little uneasy, but when they paid extra because there were more people, I pushed the doubts aside. None of it was my business anyway. A week later, they officially moved in. The couple insisted on carrying their own things. They didn't need my help. They brought in about a dozen pieces of furniture wrapped in blue tarps and around 10 large cardboard boxes. The wife was a homemaker and the husband worked in security management at a nearby airport. His schedule was erratic. Sometimes 12-hour shifts, sometimes overnight. He also had to be on call pretty much 24/7. The odd thing was that someone with a job like that would need good cell reception, but my basement barely got a single bar, and the Wi-Fi was spotty. The first week living together, nothing special happened. I nearly forgot they existed. No noise at all. I never saw the boys go to school. Maybe they were homeschooled. That, to me, rang the weird religion bell. One day, my curiosity got the better of me. I took a chance and went down to see how they'd arranged the basement. It was midday and I noticed their car wasn't in the driveway, so I figured they were out. I knocked a few times, and when no one answered, I used my key and went in. The air below was damp and silent. I flipped on the lights and froze when I realized I wasn't alone. The whole family was standing in a straight line against the far wall, tallest to shortest, completely still, just staring at me. Only when they registered that I'd seen them did they react. They all tilted their heads up to look at me and grinned widely. I quickly lied that I'd come to check the water meter, that I'd knocked, but no one answered, so I let myself in. Last thing I needed was a trespassing complaint. Luckily, they didn't seem suspicious and just kept grinning. As I walked back up the stairs, a chilling thought flashed through my head. If all of them were down there, then who had been driving the car? In the weeks after, I ran into even stranger things. Once, I found the younger boy standing motionless in the kitchen, staring at the spice rack. When I asked him what he was doing, he said, "I wasn't doing anything," then turned and sprinted straight back to the basement. Another time, I saw the wife standing right at the basement door. She just stood there, hand on the doorknob, eyes glued to me as I walked past. I greeted her, she greeted me back, but kept staring until I was out of sight. Right after that, I heard her running down the stairs at full speed, not hurrying, literally sprinting. Then there was the day I looked out the upstairs window and saw the husband sitting in the car in the driveway. He just sat there with both hands on the wheel, silent for 15 minutes, no radio, doing nothing. But the strangest thing happened that night. I went to the kitchen for a can of Coke and found the wife standing there with the fridge wide open. The fridge light threw her shadow onto the wall. She was wearing a bathrobe tied hastily, barefoot, long black hair soaking wet as if she'd just showered. At first, it only startled me a little, and I figured she was looking for a late-night snack. But then I realized something was off about her ears. Her left ear sat about 2 to 3 inches higher than the right, while her neck held perfectly straight, not tilted at all. Her scalp looked a little disjointed, and the way she moved her fingers wasn't natural. Each finger pointed in a different direction, as if they were broken. I stood there from a distance, watching her chest rise and fall as she took deep breaths, as if gulping the cold air from the fridge. When she turned toward me, for a split second I saw her upper body move first, and then her legs followed, like a puppet being jerked, not a person moving fluidly. I slipped behind the wall to hide and heard her hurried footsteps racing toward the basement. The footfalls were uneven, like she was limping at a run. At the basement door, she paused. I heard her pacing around, and then, crack, a sharp sound like a joint being forced back into place. Right after that, her footsteps returned to normal, and she hurried down the stairs. Scared out of my wits, I stood there for a long time trying to calm down. I told myself it was dark. I was sleepy, I must have imagined it. But somehow my sixth sense kept blaring that something about her was terribly wrong, that I'd just seen something I wasn't meant to see. From that day on, I was on edge. At night, I didn't dare step into the hallway and kept as far from the basement door as possible. I tried to push them out of my mind, focus on finding a new job and a tenant for the upstairs so there'd be more people around and I'd feel less scared. Luckily, not long after, a pair of college students came to see the upstairs. We had a good chat. They seemed kind, polite, well-educated, put me at ease. The only problem was the basement family. We had to introduce everyone since we'd be living under the same roof. When I took the students downstairs, the family of 4 was lined up in a perfect 2x2 formation. Parents behind, kids in front, all dressed nicely, and all wearing those big, wide smiles. It looked like they were about to take a family portrait. They exchanged a few words, and about 20 seconds later, an awkward silence fell. The family just stood there, grinning at us, as if waiting for us to speak. I was about to say something, when it hit me that something wasn't right. The wife's eye color looked a bit different. The older boy's face seemed slightly off-center. Was the husband missing a finger, or was it just hidden by the angle? Or had they been this odd from the start and I was only now truly noticing? After I saw the students off, they turned back to me, faces pale, and one stammered, "We don't mean to judge, but those people give us the creeps. What kind of family rents out a whole basement to live in?" The other chimed in, "And what's with their boxes?" I said, "Oh, personal items, clothes, odds and ends." "No, I mean that self-closing box, the green one in the corner." I brushed it off to end the conversation quickly. I knew they wouldn't be coming back, but their words kept replaying in my mind. A self-closing box. How had I not noticed? After countless sleepless nights, I decided I had to find out. Time to risk it. One day, I slipped a note under their door telling them I needed them out of the basement for an afternoon to test the plumbing. I even looked up some plumbing terminology online and referenced a real company to make it sound legit. Sure enough, the whole family left in the familiar car they always parked in the driveway. I told them the testing would take about an hour. They seemed a bit suspicious when no repairman showed up. but thankfully they didn't press. As their car pulled away, I realized I was sweating buckets. I didn't even know what I was scared of, but my mind kept flashing back to the sight of the wife's broken jerk gate under the fridge light. As soon as they were out of sight, I rushed down to the basement, turned on the light, and started rummaging through their things. I knew I was violating their privacy, but if I wanted to sleep again, I had to know what they were hiding and why they were so bizarre. There were many odd details. Every bed was perfectly made, as if no one had ever slept in them. Most surfaces had a thin layer of dust. The TV, I was sure, hadn't been turned on in ages. It wasn't even plugged in. No phones, no chargers, no laptops or desktops, just piles of boxes and furniture that rarely seemed used. I began checking the cardboard boxes. Most were clothes, identical outfits to what I'd seen them wear. One box was full of accessories like earrings, necklaces, glasses, hairspray, and fake nails. Another was stuffed with random decorations like porcelain dog figurines, family photos, dried sunflowers and roses. Everything was weird, but nothing illegal or obviously criminal. Then I remembered the self-closing green box the students had mentioned, but I couldn't find it anywhere. Not until I turned to leave. Right by the stairs, next to the spotless bathroom, was a large green foam cooler. It was old and beat up, like it had been around for years, which is probably why I'd overlooked it. I thought it wasn't theirs. But now I was certain I'd never owned this thing. And I don't know if I was imagining it, but it seemed to be moving. Like something inside was thumping against the walls, making tiny creaking sounds. Listening closely, there was a sound inside, a kind of growl, making the cooler vibrate and sway slightly. I stood there frozen with fear for a while. Then I slowly mustered the courage and backed up the stairs, one step at a time. The moment I rounded the corner and the cooler slipped out of view, I heard a pop. The lid of the foam cooler flew open. The sound was much clearer now, a loud growl with a pitch that kept shifting. Then something crashed onto the floor, followed by a high-pitched, blood-curdling shriek. I stood still, trying to make sense of the sound. It was like a cross between a dog and a fox. Then it scrambled up. I could hear claws scraping the floor and something charging at me, fast. Some ancient survival instinct in me screamed, "Run!" I bolted up the stairs, glancing back only for a fraction of a second as I slammed the door behind me. I saw it only for that instant. Something black with a single eye reflecting light back at me. Its skin was taut and glossy, stretched tight over a skull. Its teeth stuck out in all directions, mismatched sizes. Black drool dangled from an absurdly long tongue. It was something wearing a dog costume, a black dog. The second I slammed the door, I heard a car screech to a stop in the driveway. But it hasn't even been 30 minutes. Had they planned to catch me in the act? I ran to my room and heard them enter the house and head straight for the basement. I grabbed a few clothes and a toothbrush into a small bag. As soon as I heard the basement door shut, I ran to my car. The moment I got in, they stepped out of the house. All four of them stood there in the yard, just staring at me. And next to them was a beautiful black Labrador wagging its tail happily. I didn't say a word. I just drove off as fast as I could. I needed distance. I wanted to go to the police, but how could I explain any of this? And even if I could, what would the police do? Evict them because they had a dog? The lease even allowed pets? I was at a total disadvantage. I had no proof. I decided to spend the night at a motel on the outskirts of town. I needed time to think and a night's sleep without worrying that something strange lived right beneath my feet. To this day, I can't forget that image, the black thing in the dog costume. Its cry sounded like something trying to remember how a real dog is supposed to sound. At the motel, I collapsed on the bed, turned on the TV, and scrolled on my phone. For the first time in weeks, I felt a little relaxed, but every time I thought about that house and that family, my heart started pounding again. Suddenly I opened my eyes to a knock at the door. I must have drifted off. I had drawn the curtains so I couldn't see who was outside. The knocking came again, this time with a voice, the older boy's voice. "Sir, my mum wants to talk to you." I didn't answer. I tiptoed out of bed, trying not to make a sound. The voice repeated, "My mum wants to talk to you, it's urgent." I definitely knew I was inside, and they had something in mind. I slipped to the back of the room as the front doorknob started rattling. The boy's voice again, deeper this time, threatening like a grown man's. "My mum wants to talk to you." I yanked the curtain on the back window to climb out, and my heart nearly stopped. The husband stood inches from the glass, posture ramrod straight, shirt tucked in neatly. That familiar wide grin was on his face. Looking closer, there were more wrong details. His lips drooped lower than yesterday, one eye sat lower than the other, his hairline was lower too, as if he'd hastily assembled himself into a human being. Another knock at the front door, another at the window, a voice from the front, a voice from the back, maybe from the room next door too, voices small, voices large, choppy, all mixed. I needed an escape route, but first, I had to know how many were waiting for me out front. I pulled the front curtain aside. All of them were out there, the couple, the two kids, and the dog. I looked back just to convince myself I was still sane. There were two husbands, and neither was right. Down the road in their car, I spotted two more children identical to the boys, both with unsettling flaws as if they weren't fully finished as humans. One with a slack jaw, one with a strange eye, one with a bald patch. Then another wife stepped out of the motel manager's office, one arm deflated and a paralyzed face. I was surrounded, nowhere to run. I raised my phone and threatened, "I'm calling the cops, get the hell out." They chuckled, the laughter warped, like it was trying to match the right frequency. The doorknob rattled again, harder this time. Who knew how long it would hold? The wife spoke. "How about a trade, little brother? Mutual benefit." I snarled. "What do you want from me now? Go into the bathroom, chew a piece of tissue, or then drop it out the window?" "What the hell are you saying?" "We need a new suit. Your size is great." "You're not wearing me. If you do that, we'll leave you alone. You won't be involved with our family anymore, okay? But if you don't, then tomorrow people with your face and build will do the worst things imaginable all over town. Think carefully, little brother. This is the old deal." My brain spun, trying to grasp what was happening. They were going to make a suit out of me, like they did with that dog and that family. So there'd be a thing out there that looks exactly like me, wandering around. I wanted to say I refused. Absolutely not. But did I have a choice? I was surrounded. I didn't know what they were or how powerful. Maybe them settling for suits was mercy enough. I did as they said, went into the bathroom and chewed a piece of tissue. I spat it out, went to the window, opened it, and flicked the wad outside. The wife picked it up and stared straight into my eyes without blinking. She clenched her fist, grabbed the top of her head, and pulled. Her entire face peeled back. Beneath it was nothing but pitch-black sludge encasing a warped skull, like a moving oil slick, black and slick and featureless. She stuffed the tissue into her true form, before pulling the face back on. It took a few seconds to align, but she couldn't get it perfectly human again. Then she turned to me with my own eyes. She spoke with my own mouth, my own voice came out. "Thanks. Isn't this better for both of us?" I didn't dare answer, I didn't dare think. I just closed the curtain and backed away. I heard a car outside and from a distance heard my own voice one last time. "We'll leave tomorrow morning, but we're never far." By the next morning, they were gone. The basement was empty and they'd even left a thank you note. Attached was a Polaroid of a happy family, a mother, a father, 2 children, and a cheerful uncle. That uncle was me, or rather, looked exactly like me. I hesitated about sharing this, but I believe from their gestures and words that they aren't savvy enough with technology to find this post. I've also omitted a few details and changed names for safety. I just want to know if anyone has ever encountered something similar. Are they still out there? Are they watching me? How many suits do they have? Sometimes I catch sight of someone who resembles that family. A husband with a different haircut, a wife a bit younger. And a few weeks ago, a friend called to say he saw me in the local paper. The problem is, I've never been in the news, never given an interview in my life. I plan to move far away, but first, I needed to get this off my chest. I need someone to believe that I'm the original me. Not the me you might see in a newspaper or lurking somewhere out there. If you like the story above, please share it to motivate us to keep making more. And don't forget to follow Dreadvale Creepy to hear more stories in the future. See you in the next tale.